Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin for today. So, let's take a first look at our weekly candle close. We opened at 63,752. Our high was 65,571 and 40 cents, and then our low was 61,810 and 30 cents, it looks like. And then we close at 64,700 on the dot, up $948. So definitely a bullish close for the week. We had a really big candle, or sorry, a wick to the downside. But we were able to get that three white soldiers pattern that I've been talking about and stay above weekly 200 MA, which is great. We also are above one of our, support lines at 63,940. So all in all, a decently bullish close, I gotta say. So that being said, let's take a look and see where we're at for the current week, which would be for Monday's candle. So our weekly open, guys, is around 64,700. I will be putting out a new line, a new blue line for our midnight Monday open once that does hit. But for right now, we're just going to wait and see, where that will occur. Basically, obviously we're a few hours away from that. I do have, or actually, I think even just 1 hour away from that. I do have an indicator that will tell me on these smaller time frames where that will occur. So we will definitely plot that on our charts as a blue line when we do get that Monday midnight open. I showed you guys last week how important that was. We actually bounced off of it, found some resistance on there, or support, I should say, on that number. So we will plot that again this week. But for right now, unfortunately, we are trading above weekly open. We did get a little bit of a tail there. Taking a look at I want to take a look at our 8 hour and then kind of go into some of our meso timeframes from there. Definitely kind of have a bullish curve up, I will say. Definitely some sort of inverted head and shoulders pattern it currently looks like. Now, that being said, I am very wary of price action for now. I was hoping that we would get a move up to 65,000, like, at least 180. We got it to about 65,082, and then we just found some resistance. So, the only thing that worries me for right now, guys, is it's the start of a new week. Um, you don't want to see a massive move at the beginning of the week. There is a potential of a rollover at this point. So we're finding a lot of resistance at this 65 180 number. Not really able to get above it, close above it on some of our meso time frames. So definitely a strong potential that we could have a rollover. Now, if we are going to have a bearish week, what I'm going to tell you is, there's a decent chance that we pump tonight, Monday, Tuesday, find our high for the week, and then fall. Okay. What exactly would that look like? Well, what I'm going to be measuring, honestly, is we would probably be getting a rejection off of thinking probably from this wick down. So I'm thinking probably around, gosh, we already hit it. So maybe this next wick up here. So yeah, 65.2 kind of would be where I would be expecting a strong resistance point if we were to get that bearish 786. So basically what that looks like is the 8 hour 200 MA coming down more, getting closer to price action. Maybe we even reject off of this 66 area. We might even have to pull it higher. Let's see. So our next point would be maybe from right here, downward. That's 68. Wow. Let's see. Let's try this one. Trying to find the perfect 786 level we could maybe pull from here. 65,879 would probably be a decent one. So this little wick right here to the upside. So probably about 65,879 would be our high if we were to pump first for the week. And I think I did say about 65.5, 65.7. We talked about that area. So if we were to have a bearish week, I would expect for us to pump into that 65.5, 65.7, find resistance, and then fall from there. Um, if we were to fall, that's when you're targeting that 61 area, that 60,000 area. this area is kind of what I would be targeting if we were to fall from that point and make a bearish close. Okay. Now, coming into the 4 hour, that would mean that the 6 hour and the 4 hour would have to lose their 200 MAs, which at this point, as it stands right now, that is a basic guess as to where we're going for the week. I'm not saying that that's exactly what it's going to do. And again, like I've been telling you guys, if you do short above, when you're above a 200 MA with these golden crosses, it is extremely dangerous, because you basically can get wiped out. Meaning this could just immediately explode to the upside at any time, and without any warning, basically, and you could be in a very big negative position potentially if you don't have a stop loss, or you could just get stopped out in general. I personally am a bigger fan of just waiting, even though it's not the best entry, at least waiting to see if we can maybe get a close below the 6 hour 200 MA, which is at 63,940. The 4 hour would be looking at around, it's even less than that. So that's about 62,733. It looks like 62,865. So I would say first, guys, my key indicator, if we're going to turn bearish, would probably be the 6 hour 200 MA. If we were to lose this 63,940, I would become more bearish and potentially say that the meso time frame has flipped bearish. Until that point, any shorts are going to be extremely risky, and just be aware of that. You can short it, not financial advice, but just be aware of the consequences of potentially doing that. Okay. Um, the 1 hour, you're staying above the 200 MA. Everything's setting up for a decent move. It's just my only concern is that we're going to have to get some sort of wick to the downside for this new week. How far that goes is going to be a bigger question. But, in a very bullish environment, right? It is possible that on the week, this is all the wick that we need to the downside. We've had other wicks where we're very bullish, and that's all we do is just a few $100 even, right, to the downside. So it is possible that we could slowly keep working our way up. It's just in a bearish environment, which we know that on the macro timeframes, we're still in a bear market. It's just not as probable to get a week like that, okay? It is definitely risky to stay in a long, knowing that, there's a potential that we get a rollover, we have to make our wick for the week, that type of thing. So drilling down into the smaller time frames of 15 to 1 hour, I mean, yes, they look great. They're giving you the Sammy special, the Crypto Lifer special, giving you a bull flag above the 200 MA, hugging the 21, everything that you want to see. It's just on the wrong day at the wrong time, right? We're talking about this on a Sunday evening, right during a weekly open. We're not talking about this on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, right? Which would have been a much better scenario, or even, Monday or sorry, even a Tuesday morning or a Wednesday morning would have been better for this. So that's what just kind of gives me a bad taste in my mouth. Not that we're going to go far down or get a huge drop, but it just has me a little bit concerned. Okay. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity. So again, guys, I'm going to be targeting about the 65.7 if we are going to have a bearish week, meaning I want to see price hit this, tonight, Monday, Tuesday potentially, and then we would potentially fall for the rest of the week. So if we were to have a bearish week, target is 65.705 as the top, and then we drop. Okay. Now, as far as bottom, pools of liquidity, what I would be targeting is first, I would probably be targeting a 786 from this wick right here, which would take you to about that 63, 265 area. It's about 63. Yeah, let's raise this up. This would be about 63,311. It looks like now because we have a higher high here. But about 63,311. I'll put it at 63,322. That's close enough. Somewhere around there would be my first kind of initial take. You could pull it from the absolute bottom, which would take you about 63.64. And then, absolute worst case scenario is, let me actually go back on that. You'd possibly be aiming to down here, which would then take you to about 62.511, right in the middle of this order block, which we already hit. So in my opinion, that's no longer in the playing field here. I'd have to say that we'd have to come all the way down here further to some of these wicks down here, unfortunately. Probably like this one right here and hit about 50, well, not even that low. Let's see. Probably have to be about here, 60,658. So basically, the next level would be fulfilling this order block right here, okay? If we cannot hold that 63, 322 area that, I think I told you about 63 too, you could potentially fill this order block to 60,600 area. That would be where I would be targeting right here, this order block, okay? That being said, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity, see where it lines up with some of those levels. All right, so taking a look at liquidity, we are staying above my 64,685 line on the 4-hour, which is a great sign. You have that liquidity to 66,000. So again, that kind of lines up with me saying 65.7, 65.8 to make our high for the week and maybe get rejected off of this red liquidity area, right? That's what I've been talking about. So it's really going to depend on, once we get up here, how price reacts to this level right here. If we get a strong rejection, and depending on the day, there's a good chance that we could basically free fall from there, right? Looking at the 1 hour, so the 1 hour, yeah, I mean, it shows 65.6, 65.7, and that's exactly where I'm talking about, right? Taking out this liquidity and maybe getting a reversal from there. You definitely have a lot of liquidity to bring you back down to 61,000, which, basically is right above that 60,800 area I was talking about earlier. So that is definitely a possibility, and something that you got to look out for is taking out this double top, like we've been saying, 65,700, and then dropping from there. Okay, that's kind of what I'm targeting for right now. Taking a look at the 15-minute, that also aligns with that narrative, right? Not that, like I said, it's not guaranteed that that's going to happen. I'm just reading the 786 levels on my chart and then applying it to the liquidity through trading different, okay? So 65.7, 65.6, 65.7 is going to be potentially our high, and then we get a drop down to that 61,000 area. Now, there's a potential, right, that we don't even go up that high, and it just does an automatic rollover tonight, and we start kind of taking some more of this liquidity down. Maybe we make a 786 off of 63,000-ish area, and then we bump up to 65.7, and then we come back down. We could do some sort of seek and destroy price action for this week, so just be aware of that. Kiyotaka is showing that there's orders on both sides. You do have that order to 65.5. It looks like you have a decent order, but you also have some down to 63,325 currently, and even further down than that. So there's a lot more bridged orders on the order book to the downside than there is to the upside right now. You have one major one at 65.5, and then it kind of comes down from there. So I think the safest move for right now, and again, never take my word with financial advice, is I'm personally going to wait for the morning to see where we are at. And if I see overnight that we pump up, there's a potential that I'm going to maybe look for a short opportunity, depending on how that 6-hour 200 MA looks and that 4-hour 200 MA looks. Again, I'm going to base my bias based off of the meso timeframes for right now. But if I don't see orders up here on Kiyotaka and we take out a big pool of liquidity, definitely is suspicious to me that there might be a reversal on the meso timeframes. Okay, so just be aware of that. That being said, guys, that is what I have for you for tonight. Let's take a real quick look at the simple map. So the simple map does show that there's not a lot of liquidity around us, unfortunately, not really a bridge to get us up into the 65 area quite yet. I mean, we have a little bit, but just nothing major, and there's also nothing major really right below us. So it's very low volume, high volatility time right now. Just be very careful. Sunday nights are the most horrible night to trade, practically. So it definitely is a safer bet to just wait it out, wait till the morning, see if we get that nice drop. And maybe if we get a drop into that low 63 range, we can possibly look for a reversal. So definitely, the scalping timeframes are kind of showing an indecisiveness. We could definitely get the pump tonight too. I could literally, see it either way at this point. Your swing time frames. So your swing time frames, kind of the same thing, right? This actually has been lining up quite well with the smaller time frames. So your 4-hour and your daily, really are reflecting kind of the same information as the smaller time frames of 5, the 15, the hourly, right? But again, same thing. You have not a lot of bridges and liquidity to get you to either side, so definitely would be considered a low volume, high volatility time of the night. But again, I can frame it either way. What I ideally want to see, just so that you know, is I want to see it drop into the low 63s. That way I can get an entry in the morning and then ride this puppy up into the 65, hopefully 65.5, 65.7-ish area. And then take profit there because obviously I am expecting some sort of reversal or an issue at that point. But anyways, guys, that is what I'm seeing for today. As always, if you guys want to use Trading Different and its tools, highly recommend it to identify bias and where liquidity pools are at. You can use my code Sean to get 10% off of it. So tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean to get the Trading Different tools and get 10% off. All right, guys, that's what I have for you for tonight. I will talk to you all in the morning. Take care. I'll see you then.